Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Popo here, bringing guys a new video, and today we're going to learn about EV training. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, and today we're going to be learning about some EV training. I've seen a lot of people recently kind of question why EV in certain ways and stuff like that, and just having a real issue learning about EVs in general. So I just wanted to do a little video on showing why certain things are important and how you can effectively EV train. This is just going to be a short little thing. You can take this information, go and try it on your own and build your own teams. I'm going to have the link to this damage calculator down below if you've never used this one before. This is the best one for VGC, so make sure you use this one and not the Smogon one, as that one is built for singles. This one has sets for VGC specific Pokemon, so it's really nice. You can just plug them in and you can see damage calcs against popular sets. So definitely use this one if you're not already. So the first thing you need to learn about EVs, of course, is what they do, right? So EVs actually increase your stat totals, and it works in a kind of weird way where I'll show right here on this this HP. So if we put 4 in, it gives us 1 stat point. So you would think every 4. Well, if you're level 100, that does work. Every 4 does give you 1 stat point. So if you are playing singles, that's what you're used to. But if you're coming from singles into VGC, we're at level 50. So 8 does not give you any stat points, but if you go to 12, so it's the first 4, and then every 8 after that, up to a grand total of 252. So that will be the max. As you can see, you can always go down or up and you will get that total. And you have 510 of these to use, though only 508 of them are useful. 2 of them are absolutely useless. So just keep that in mind as well. And you don't really have to worry about those 2. So if you EV train something, you want to be just exact, you could be just exact. So the Pokemon I want to use here today, we're going to use Raging Bolt. And the reason why we're going to use Raging Bolt is because it is a very popular Pokemon right now. A lot of people are using it. It'll be really easy to demonstrate some of these techniques and some of these stat lines and stuff like that. So just looking at it, the first thing you want to always do is look at the base stat total. That's one of the most important parts about picking a Pokemon on your team. After that is probably typing and role in the team in kind of that order, because you can use Pokemon that have lower base stat totals if they have really good typing or a really good role, but often base stat, like if I had another electric dragon that had higher base stats, it's always just going to be better than using Raging Bolts, for example, which there are none that are comparable, but if there was, then that Pokemon would just be better. So you just want to keep that in mind when you're picking the Pokemon in the first place. Yes, niche picks could be relevant. There could be Pokemon that are the same type, but they play a different role, something like that. So just keep that in mind. Base that total, then typing, then role in the team. Sometimes role can be that priority, though. So, but we're just going to use Raging Bolt here. And it's just his base stats are really good, so we're going to be able to show off how these little base stats work. And the first thing I want to talk about is nature. And I know this is supposed to be about EVs, but let's talk about nature a little bit. So nature gives a % boost to a stat, and a lot of people who want to make their Pokemon bulkier, they'll throw on something. Let's say they want to do special defense. We'll just throw on Sassy here. So Sassy is going to give that boost to the special defense. So as you can see here, it's 119 now, right? So if we go back to a neutral, it's 109. So we're gaining 10, right? We're only gaining 10 onto that boost, which isn't the best, right? We want to be gaining as much as possible, and 10 is not great. If we go up to 4, we're actually going to gain a little bit more because the stat total changes. So we're going to see a 2-point increase onto that. So because it goes up to 110, and then we're going to gain 11 from it being a 10% increase. But what you can do with this is a lot stronger than that, right? So instead of doing that, let's see what happens if we throw this on Modest, right? We go from 157 to 172, which is a 15-point increase, because once again, it's that 10%. So we're taking this first number here and we're just essentially adding it on to the end. We completely drop this number because it does round down, unfortunately. So if we do go up to 160 here, and then we go modest, we're actually going to gain 16 points. As you can see, we went to 76. So this is a good benchmark for what you want to do. Oftentimes, it's better to take the highest base stat total and just make it better because you're getting the most value per point. A 10% just straight default increase is very, very good, especially once again if you have a huge base stat total. Like 137 is huge, so you're just going to gain a lot of value out of that. Remember, you're just going to take these two points and you're going to add it to the end. So whatever your neutral stat is, 160, we're going to take 16 and we're going to add it to the end of that. Okay, so why is this relevant? Why is it important? Because you can maximize your base stat total. So, and like the difference, if we go back to 0 here, right? So this went up to 172. So how many EVs would it take for us to get to 172? So let's just start adding some EVs, right? So as you can see, we're getting closer, and it takes 116 to get to that same total, right? Whereas, we want to get 10 here, right? So 4 is gonna 4 didn't give us any on the, oh no, it did, it was just messed up. Okay, and so we're gonna see that same stat total at 76. So right there, you're saving 40 EVs that you can use anywhere else just by being modest rather than being any of the special defense increasing ones. So, and at that stat total, we're at 189, which is a 17-point increase on the actual base stat total, of course. So a good marker is you want to do X amount of damage to X Pokemon, right? I want a two-shot, you know, Fluttermane. Okay, let's go with Fluttermane because it's a really easy one for a special attacker to go up against. A really popular set right now, of course, is the Spec set. Something like this is really, really popular. I like to just change this to modest just to do better damage calculations. At 201 special attack, that is a lot. And as you can see, we're taking a lot from these attacks. So we can kind of see what it looks like if we start working around these attacks. You can start throwing in your items and everything like that too. But we're just going to take this for right now. So we want to see Thunderbolt because that's going to be our strongest attack, right? It's going to be Thunderbolt. Sorry, I have this mic in my way, so typing is it's not as easy as it normally would be. So we want to throw Thunderbolt on there. So at 116, we actually are barely getting a two-shot 5% of times. We're always dying to Moonblast. It's not a great time out here. So we want to just try to increase this to be like almost a guaranteed two-shot every single time. So this is 45%, and it gives us a 200 stat total. We could keep going up and see if we can get that two-shot, but we're never able to guarantee that two-shot. So being as close as possible is very important, but we also don't want to get one-shot, right? We want to try to avoid, especially with a Dazzling Gleam, to get that one-shot. So one of the best ways you could do that is by running the Assault Vest item, right? That Assault Vest item with, you know, 76 here, which I'm just going to take away because we will not be doing that. It is a guaranteed one-hit kill no matter what we're doing if we have that Assault Vest item and we don't Terrasilize. If we do Terrasilize, as you can see, it drops to a 50% chance. So, or it guarantees a two-hit kill. It does 50%. So we have that damage because we're no longer weak to it, of course. So, so that's a really good metric to be looking for. We want to get this as low as we can. And if we Terrasilize, look, now we one-shot this Fluttermane. If the Fluttermane does Terrasilize, it still does two-shot. So we're not losing any value from it Terrasilizing at the moment, and we still get our own two-shot. And then we can see on top of that Thunderclap, right? Because Thunderclap is our other attack. And a Thunderbolt plus a Thunderclap always KOs a Fluttermane, right? With this and Electric Terra. I'm a big fan of Electric Terra. That's why we're just gonna use that. So we just kind of want to lower this damage here because we want to make it so if they're not terrestrialized, or if we force them to terrestrialize with something else, we will have an advantage on them. So we want to make this under 100%. So one thing you could do is you could just keep upping this and just seeing at what point it doesn't kill you anymore. Okay, 164 is going to be the point where it does not knock you out anymore. It's going to do 99% guaranteed 2-shot. If it terrestrializes, it's always going to. But if we go here, it's always going to. If we're here, it doesn't even 2-shot now. So that's an important indicator, right? But that's a lot of investment. Now the HP stat is actually higher, right? So if we invest in HP, we actually get a really good HP stat. And let's see what happens if we drop this down, right? So now it's a 12% chance. It's only a 12% chance to knock out if we go max HP, which is not bad. And if we terrestrialize, it does just 50%. So what we can do is maybe we can try to increase this a little bit. See how that's working? Now that we have this HP investment, we only have to go 12 into special defense, which will make it do the same amount as if we invested a ton into special defense. But the advantage of this, it also increases our survivability for our defensive stats too. Whereas if we dumped all of our points in the special defense, our physical defense is still low because we don't have much HP and we have no investment in defense, or we have minimal HP and minimal defense investment. So this makes it the same thing. If we terrestrialize, it's under 50%. So it is equivalent in relevant to the situation. So now we still have 50 points to use. We have 48 points to use. Remember, 2 of them are completely useless. And an important thing to note is it's always odd stats unless you have a like weird stat total. There's some weird stat totals that sometimes you only need like to max it out is going to be like 248 or something like that. It's a very strange. They're not really that common, so I wouldn't really worry about it too much. So so we have 48 left. So you want odd stats. So there's 1, 2, 3, right, that we have invested. So let's say we invest into our defense, right, and we want to put 44, but you see 48 does nothing. That leaves us with 2. It doesn't change this right here, right? It's still 17 no matter what. That's 16, 17. So we have 1 we can just put into speed. That will give us a little bit of speed. So now we're not getting shot by modest, flutter mains with Moonblast, even if we're not terrestrialized. Dazzling Gleam's a 2-shot, but if we do terrestrialize, we are never getting it's always a 3-hit knockout, and Dazzling Gleam is a 4-hit knockout. As well, we're 2-shotting the Flutter Mane back, so it's only ever going to get 1 shot. Also, we could just double Thunderclap if we ever needed to, and have a 87% chance to 2-hit it. So this is a really strong spread, and the reason why it's a really strong spread is just because of the fact that we're able to take advantage of that higher stat with that nature. Assault Vest is boosting this up, which is 50%. So you always want to try to be on an even number. So I would say go for this because you're getting like 1 more stat point. So always try to do that if you can. So, and you can see the pretty balanced defenses. You have a huge HP pool. You could even lose some of this HP here. As you can see, it's not changing the Moonblast calculation, but we want to make sure we're not changing the Moonblast calculation here, right? So as you can see, at that point is when we lose it. So 228 is a good benchmark, as we do not get 1-shot by these Flutter Manes. We are still 2-shotting them. And maybe we can use this 26 to guarantee a 2-shot. Let's see. It is not guaranteed 2-shot, but it's a 97% chance. So that could be value right there, or we can just increase our defenses even more. Or you can go increase your speed if you really wanted to, and make yourself 99 speed, maybe outspeeding or power, speed creeping some of the other Raging Bolts out there. I know a lot of going for 100 speed right now, so maybe 101 speed is the strat. You can go, minus a couple minus defenses and, you know, put it in there for 101. So you want to kind of pay attention to the meta when people are releasing their teams, kind of check what they're running, download their PokePaste or their rental codes and just go try them and see what they're running, and you can kind of outpace them. So this is a really good spread against Fluttermane, as we're gonna most likely two-shot it almost every single time, especially choice specs, because they're not going to be able to protect. It never one-shots us when it is using Moonblast, of course, unless it crits. If it crits, it's just over. If we crit Thunderbolt, it does pretty good damage, but it doesn't change the calculation, so it's not that big of a deal. If we are here, though, it does get a chance, 50% chance to one-shot. We're also going to have Snarl, because Snarl's a really good move, and we're going to have, like, Draco Meteor, because you just want to output as much damage, and then you can switch and stuff. So Snarl, as you can see, is going to do 14% to something like Fluttermane, and that could just put you in a good position because they're going to be -1. And if we look at -1, let's say you have Trick Room or something up. Look at now, Moonblast is barely doing anything. It's still a 2-shot here, but now Dazzling Gleam is a 3-shot, so you can even save that Terrestrialization if you don't want to use it, because you will still just 2-shot the Fluttermane. So, and if you have something like Rillaboom, Thunderclap plus a really like physical Rillaboom will kill with Grassy Glide. Will knock out with Grassy Glide. So you can do that. So you have 2 priority moves that are putting a lot of pressure on something like Fluttermane. So that's really good set. But now you're saying, okay, well, how well does he do against some of the physical threats? Like we have Chien-Pao, right? So I like to go against the Chien-Pao Adamant because it does more damage. So we can kind of see a better use case for the Pokemon itself. So this is going to be Adamant, Focus Sash. This is really, really common with Stellar Terra. You can see it's going to one-shot us no matter what, though we do a ton of damage. Draco Meteor actually doing enough, but it can only ever be 2-shot anyways, and something like Thunderclap or Thunderbolt will put it in range for almost any other attack. And if we Terrasilize, we never get knocked out at this range with this HP and this investment in defense. So it only takes a little bit of investment in defense to be able to do things. You're never going to really get to a situation where Icicle Crash with Stellar Terra is going to be a 2-shot or a 3-shot, sorry. So like your calculations are going to end up going for like something like Sucker Punch, which right now is a 2-shot. But with our Thunderbolt doing so much, and then we can put pressure on with Fake Out, or we can put pressure on with, you know, Grassy Glide or something like that, the Sucker Punch isn't as bad. If they're not Stellar Terra, then you could see that the Sucker Punch doesn't really do that much. And if they go for Jolly, rather, then you could see that the Icicle Crash becomes almost a guaranteed 3-shot, where it's a 1.2% chance to hit kill. So, going for that Terra is going to give you a huge advantage. You can also go Fairy Terra, which is super popular. I just like the extra damage on something that's so bulky. So this is where I like to be. But if we can take this back and then we can invest this back into defense, you will see that this just becomes a lot weaker. And this becomes a almost guaranteed 2-shots. 3 shots, because it's 26%. That means more times than not, we'll get the advantage on that. And if they have Ice Spinner, it's always going to be a 3-hit, and that's on an Adamant. But if they do Terra, then it's always going to be a 2-shot. It doesn't matter what build you're going for. You could invest all in defense. I think it's still almost a 2-shot. So it's not really worth worrying about that as much, because you're going to lose all your damage, and you definitely don't want to do that. So, yeah, and you could do this with anything, right? Like Incin, we want to see like bulky Incin, right? We can see how much damage we do to bulky Incin, how much damage it's going to do to us. Like Knockoff doesn't really do that much. Fake Out's going to do a little bit of damage. Flare Blitz doesn't really do much. If we Terra, we always 2-shot with Thunderbolt. Draco Meteor is going to do about 60%, so that's not too bad, especially for such a bulky Pokemon. What else? What else is another really, let's say Rillaboom, right? We got Assault Vest Rillaboom, give him high horsepower. High horsepower is going to do about 50%. It doesn't matter if we tear it, obviously. And Grassy Glide is going to do about 15%. But Draco Meteor does almost 50%. And this is a really bulky Rillaboom, max HP 124. So that's really, really bulky. And we hit for Thunderbolt for a little bit of damage. If we Terastallize, Wood Hammer does do a lot more, but we're doing a lot more with the Thunderbolts. So take that into consideration. And then I just want to show against the Raging Bolt set that's really popular right now, which is the Fairy Terra AV set. And we can see kind of what we can do against that, right? So if we look here, we actually do more with Draco Meteor than that set does because they only have 20 investment here. And we have the same amount of HP, and we actually have less special defense investment, but we just do more damage to it. So this is just out creeping. And like I said, they're at that 100. So if you really wanted to, you could go back to this being 101 here. You do lose a little bit of defense, of course, but what you gain is the advantage over other Raging Bolts. So, and if we Terastallize here, we actually only take 39%, and the most that they can do to us is probably Snarl, but our Snarls are hitting harder and faster, so they're going to be -1 always, just because we're faster, and, they're just going to be doing significantly less damage. If they Terastallize, our Snarls don't really do too much, but our Thunderbolts start doing a lot of damage, right? They're starting to do 30 damage, and their best thing to hit us is going to be that Snarl or that Draco Meteor. But if they go for that Draco Meteor, then it's going to be -2, and they're going to be at 20. So, so that just really shows, like, investing in EVs to power creep or speed creep is really important too. But you want to make sure that you're surviving on a lot of these really, really popular Pokemon. And the last one we'll look at Urshifu, Single Strike Focus Sash, because this is a really, really popular Pokemon right now. And it's one of the reasons why people are running Fairy Terra on this thing, is just because this Pokemon does so much damage. But if we look at it, we have this investment. Once again, we can go more defense, which really allows us to survive more. But Wicked Blow is only a 26% chance to 2-hit. If we did have that Fairy Terra, it goes way down. As you'll see in a second, goes down to 26%. And if they have Poison Jab, it is a 1.2% chance. But it's unlikely to 2-shot, but you can get poison. But they often don't have that. That's usually going to be Detect. But you can see it doesn't really do too much. But we do lose a lot of the damage output from Thunderbolt and such, which, once again, I really do like, because Thunderbolt here is pretty much a one-hit. So we'll at least put it down to its Focus Sash, or close enough to where it can then be knocked out by Grassy Glide or something. I feel like the electric one, you want to be running Rillaboom next to it, because it's just a really good partner for Raging Bolt, because it gives it some recovery, because you lose the recovery from not using leftovers. So you could see the most popular Pokemon here. We can even throw it up to Adamant, and you could see it's almost a guarantee to hit. But if we have grassy terrain out, it's less than a 50% chance after the recovery, which is really good for us, because once again, we're just putting a lot of pressure on this Pokemon with this and Rillaboom, and Fake Out plus Thunderbolt might be enough to just knock out anyway. So if you're running like the pivot team of like Rillaboom plus Incineroar, and you predict that they're going to actually Detect, you can switch out into the other one and put out that Fake Out pressure plus the Thunderbolt pressure, or Thunderclap, because you can see Sucker Punch doesn't actually do that much damage, so Thunderclap will also put it into range for something like Grassy Glide. And yeah, so I just think Raging Bolt is really strong, but that's not the purpose of the video. I'm just trying to prove a point that if you EV correctly, you can maximize your damage output, you can maximize your defenses, and you can just really make a really strong Pokemon. So it's all about just putting those EVs in the proper place. Do this. Always be doing damage calcs. I see a lot of people just throw EVs on, and yeah, some people say EVs are a vibe, but you gotta kind of be able to back those up. And if you're putting yourself in bad situations because you have bad EVs, like if you're just 252 special attack, 252 speed on this thing, you're gonna be struggling. You're just not gonna do well at all. And if you're just trying to bulk this thing out by just make it a special defense beast by, you know, putting on like a sassy nature or whatever else, a calm nature, you're just going to lose a lot of games that you probably should be winning because you're just not going to have the same damage output. You're going to lose a lot of viability in your Pokemon. So just make sure you're making the right choices on that nature. Boosting up, usually it's 99% of the time you want to be boosting up your main stat, even if you're not really heavily investing in that stat, because it just gets a better boost and you can invest those EVs into a different stat. So just keep that in mind. But anyways, guys, this was a much longer video than I thought it was going to be. I hope this helped you guys learn how to do damage calcs and EV train. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you guys thumbs it up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.